is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Bitchuation Room, coming to you from my mom's house. Yeah, what up? Sometimes I visit my mom. It's cool. It is Mother's Day, and I am here chilling. That's not why I'm actually here visiting her. I wish it was. It's more selfish than that. But I hope you guys are good. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here and sharing that stream. If you are listening as a podcast, my God, won't you give this podcast 5 stars? I know it's just begun, but it's good. It's going to be good because there is a whole lot to bitch about today. This week has felt like, I don't know. Well, it's felt like we've fallen 50 years into the past, doesn't it? So yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about abortion rights, reproductive rights, what the fuck is going on in the Supreme Court right now, the reactions from Democrats, the reaction from our president. I decided to have on a mom. I'm a soon-to-be mom, but a mom and comedian Erin Dewey Lennox is on. So I'm really excited to have her here. And then we are going to be talking about the movement in Minneapolis to remake the police department, to change it, to create a Department of Public Safety. As I think some of you know, there was a ballot measure that did not pass in that city. This is the site of where George Floyd was murdered, where Amir Locke was recently murdered. And so City Council member Robin Wonsley is going to be here, and she's going to talk to us about why she ran. She's a proud open socialist. Why she ran for City Council, what the move right now and what the movement right now to move money out of the police and into programs that actually help people and keep people safe, what that's looking like. So I'm super excited to have her here. And then we're going to wrap this show because it's going to be kind of a doozy. It's going to be a rough one. We're going to wrap with one of my favorite segments, which is what is good? Just what's good in anything, just in your personal life, foods you like, colors, I don't care. What's good? I want you to answer that with me. And then Erin and I are going to do a final bonus episode for all of the patrons on, some of you might think you're above this, the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. Yes, I'm going to talk about it. I don't have anyone to talk about it with. Erin said she was following. I've been following. It's gotten a little wild and sad. A lot of allegations flying, and it's pretty dark. And so it started out kind of funny. There was like poop on a bed, and I thought that was kind of funny. And now it's just sad. And so I'm curious as to what Erin thinks, and I'll give you my thoughts, and we will break down some of the testimonies and look at that. So if you need a little pop culture fix, become a patron, you guys. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. We don't always do pop culture, so give us this fucking break our daily broke. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. And as promised, remember how I said, if and when this show gets 300 patrons, which is difficult, very tough. And also it fluctuates because some of y'all forget that you're patrons and you're like, ew, unsubscribe, and obviously I get it. Times are tough. Money is tight. So it fluctuates. However, we have fluctuated above that 300 mark. And I promised the 300th patron, they'd be able to join us in the bonus bish. And that 300th patron is a man by the name of Martin Dingler. That's right. Big Marty D. Big Marty D is in the UK. Ergo, he's probably going to bed right now. Ergo, he's not going to stay on for the bonus bitch today, but Martin D says that next week he's going to get a good nap in the afternoon on his Sunday. He's going to join us at 2:30 in the morning. So that's going to happen. See, these are just a few of the perks that you get with this fucking patron. You know, I mean, obviously there's the bonus episodes. Obviously there's discounts on merch. Obviously, if you're a top tier patron, you get free merch every few months. Obviously there's the Ask Me Anythings every month you get access to. I mean, the list goes on. Also supporting my soon-to-be family, because shit is hard. Shit is going to be expensive. All right. We'll get into all that. I wanted to start off today, I guess, bitching about. Actually, wait. I've got to. Hang on. A couple more announcements. If you want to tip the show, TBR-Live on Venmo, TBR Live on Cash App. That would be amazing. Subscribe, obviously, on Twitch if you're watching on Twitch. And, let's start this goddamn show off with what are you bitching about? All right, it is Mother's Day. And let's remember that Mother's Day is not a commercial holiday where you write a card in the car and your handwriting is the worst it's ever been, and then you buy some flowers at Vaughn's. No. Mother's Day started as a radical holiday. It was started by Anna Jarvis, who was an activist herself, and her mom was also named Anna Jarvis, and she was an activist organizing specifically with poor communities, mothers and children in Appalachia. Anna Jarvis herself was a radical pacifist who, after the Civil War, basically was like, hey, have we killed enough people? Let's stop doing this. Maybe we can be done now. And the idea behind Mother's Day was always this call to peace. It was a call for women to be in leadership positions, women to step up, and also for the bloodlust of the man to not reign supreme for the love of fuck. So let us remember that, like, this sounds corny, but motherhood's pretty sacred, guys. I'm like 17 weeks pregnant, and I'm emotional as hell. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like if I did shrooms right now, I think my heart would actually like burst out of my chest. Like I'd be just like, ah, like I would turn into like a Navi from the planet Pandora in Avatar. You know what I'm saying? Like I would be like, anyway. Anyone else have that experience on shrooms? Just me? Okay, cool. We don't cry about our moms. But the point is this. Moms know what the fuck is up. Parents know what the fuck is up. And doesn't mean you have to be a parent. This is the point of the show that we will be getting into. Holy shit. But let's honor that. Let's honor Mother's Day by, working against things like war, inequality, violence. And am I someone who believes there should be more women in charge? Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, to ultimately undo and remake the system. That's why we're going to have a city council member on today, and she's going to break it down on how she's doing that in her city. Second thing I'm bitching about, when you get something home after getting really excited about eating it, and you realize that it says gluten-free all over the fucking package. Why? Again, this is like, it's the same thing as getting salt-free chips. When you accidentally get salt-free anything or salt-free like almond butter, it's painful. It's the most disappointing. I got gluten-free bagels the other day. Like, I mean, I'll shout out to the celiacs in the chat. You know what I'm saying? Like, no disrespect, but God damn it, that was disgusting. And like, now I've got 3 more and I have to eat them. So I just think there should be, like, buying gluten-free things should be like what Republicans treat abortions. Like, there should be a little bit of like, are you sure you want to buy a gluten-free bagel? And I can be like, yes, my body, my choice. Or, oh my God, what? Oh, gross. They're gluten-free? Thank you, sir. Anyway, that's what I'm bitching about. All right. And with that, let me bring in, for the hour, she is a writer and a comedian based in Los Angeles. And she's performed in over 30 states and she's just recovered from COVID-19. Please welcome Erin Dewey Lennox.
Yes. Hello. How are
How
you,
are
my
you?
friend?
So good to have you. You had to delay. You were going to be on a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to be on before we knew all our rights were removed, and
And ironically, it was an episode with Liz Winstead about how our rights are about to be removed.
we all saw it coming. We all knew when Kavanaugh cried about beer that we were fucked. We knew.
My God. We did. Oh, but don't you feel deceived? Like he lied to you because you totally believed him at the time?
I didn't believe him, but I do think that they should go to prison. I don't believe in prison, but I think that they should go for lying. They're all it's perjury. They lied. They should be removed.
It's perjury for life too, which is the
seems
best.
pretty simple. It's like this seems like a clear crime. You lied in order to get in there, and so you should be removed. Like, I don't know why we're even discussing the leak. It's like, just get them out. Bye.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep. I mean, we've all lied on.
First.
No, we should, and we'll talk about the lie in a little bit. Hold that thought. But what are you bitching about today?
I'm going to bitch about something that is about to be really near and dear to your heart, and that is childcare. It is a critical element to the sanity of motherhood. So it's on Mother's Day. I want to give a shout out to all childcare, but also it's extremely expensive. So I just did a little bit of math. I'm bad at math, but this is what it costs you before your kid goes to public school, because there's no public childcare up until they're 4.5. And that is what it costs to take care of your kid at like a regular ass preschool.
Can you just say what that number is for the people listening?
$72,000 is how much just a regular family spends on preschool.
Do you get is there like a point system? Can you at least is there cash back on that? Are there miles?
Yeah, there are miles on your car for driving your kid to and from this preschool.
That's insane. That's 4.5 years, or I guess if you start, daycare or something.
I didn't even count. That's 3 years. Because I didn't, because up until like year 1, you probably
you imagine you have paid leave, which I don't know,
which you don't. We don't.
Well, there's a very robust comics union. I can't even say it right. I'm like, because it's so funny.
It doesn't exist.
Because it doesn't exist. Would it be a comics union? Yeah. Fuck, man, we need that. And
yeah, we do.
72,000. It's just insane. And which is why it's making me rethink, because my mom's like, maybe I could live with you. And I'm like, no.
In.
And now I'm like,
bring her in.
Get her in.
Just so you can go for a workout, it's like, so you can go for a run without having to negotiate with your partner.
Or as NATO says, just take a shit in peace,
That is it. So that's one thing I'm bitching about. The second thing I want to bitch about is that most kids say dada first, and I think that is also a crime.
Stupid
apparently it's easier to say, but it's say mama. Just don't even talk until you're gonna say mama, frankly.
Yeah. Just I'd rather not hear that. You're just gonna be mama.
Just say mama. Do you know how much I've done? It's outrageous that you would say dada first. The D is easier, and I just don't accept it. I won't accept it. I'm gonna go. This is a platform I'm running on for City Council of Babies.
All babies who say dada first are misogynist and need to go to
get them out.
Get them out. Bye. They need to go to I don't know, the island of wherever Pinocchio went to become a donkey, and I don't know. He's lying, but yes, it's bullshit. It should be easier to say. I don't know.
Or we should be called dada. If that's the one to say, then call us dada. We're the ones.
Absolutely. Agreed.
If you didn't get a shot in your spine to deliver this child, then I don't think they should say your name first. That's where I'm at.
God. Oh my God. So much to look forward to. My God.
I am excited though. I mean, as we are talking about people being forced into parenthood, I am excited that you're being forced into parenthood with me. It's gonna be fun, and there's a lot of comics who have kids, and it's a really great thing. And it's also because we've all been allowed to be old enough to like be emotionally regulated and like in therapy, and have enough money to hire someone to help you so you can take the shit in peace.
Patreon.com/Bitchuation room for all that. Yeah, no, I
Please
think
donate. You know how much you just subscribe. Do you know how much money childcare is? Also, get a nanny who is a Jehovah's Witness because they don't have holidays. So anytime you're just like, yeah, she could come over.
They're gonna be taking like the kid around and using them to like knock on doors at 7 a.m.
Fine. On Christmas Day, go for it. They don't.
We're gonna go out New Year's Eve. We're going
do
out.
Holidays, so they're always available.
The Jehovah's Witnesses got it. That's hilarious. All right, we got to get into everything that we are essentially alluding to. There is only one main story for this week, but a few other things did happen. So this was the week where Dave Chappelle was attacked on stage by a MAGA rapper during a show at the Hollywood Bowl. There will be no charges pressed on the assailant, mostly because security already spelled out sorry with his body.
Ugh,
so
this is brutal. The arm, it's like
just the goose egg. Nina Turner and progressive Morgan Harper sadly lost their primary bids in Ohio, but Trump shows up for his base, in fact, and all 22 of his endorsed candidates won their primaries, including author J.D. Vance and, ironically, Greg Pence, Mike Pence's older brother. Greg and Donald obviously bonded over both having attempted to, at one point, kill little Mike. Oh, you're such a pussy. Oh, they weren't really gonna hang you. They might have. A Maryland man has died 40 days after receiving a heart transplant from a pig, most likely from a pig-related virus that researchers swore couldn't jump from animals to humans, proving that scientists have truly learned nothing from COVID-19. We gave him a hearty transfusion of bat blood and the spleen of a pangolin. I don't know what happened. What's wrong?
Oh my God.
To be fair, he was gonna die anyway, so but 40 days of a pig heart, maybe, I don't know. What do you do 40 days with a pig heart? It's a fucking memoir.
That's the title of my next album, without a doubt.
Just I do a great pig sound anyway. That's for another time when I have my actual mic. I'm bitching about not having my microphone. Italy is impounding a $700 million yacht thought to belong to Vladimir Putin. And oh my God, imagine the cost of the tugboat bill when he finally goes to pick it up. Fuck. Such a dumb joke. A Georgia judge has ruled that Marjorie Taylor Greene will, in fact, be able to run for office again, despite a lawsuit filed by voters over her participation in the January 6th riots. And no one is more disappointed than Marjorie Taylor Greene herself, because being a canceled congressperson is such a better racket than having to actually continue to do the job of a congressperson. Clearly. And finally, a new Madison Cawthorn video leaked of the congressman joke humping another man while semi-naked has come out. And what's ironic about all this dirt dug up on this guy
used to be my closer.
Just humping.
Joke humping a man.
Joke humping
was always my closer. Yeah.
What's ironic about all the dirt that's being dug up on him is that it only proves just how real these congressional orgies actually are that he apparently exposed, and how they're a million times dirtier than anything he's ever done. This is 2 senators, 1 cup. I'm sorry, I can't. But we know it's real. They're trying to take him down. You're that's a confirmation. And for everything else, this is the week where. Okay, so this was obviously the week where a draft decision from the Supreme Court on Roe v. Wade was leaked earlier in the week. That basically showed that the 5 conservative justices on the court are voting to overturn Roe v. Wade. If you listened to the show before, we thought that maybe it would be abridged, amended, changed. Already it's been abused and trampled on, but no, fully overturned. This was written by fucking dickless turd Samuel Alito, and specifically, just so you guys know what the court case is, just for refresher, it's Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, and it challenges Mississippi's ban on abortion after 15 weeks. And upholding the ban would undermine both Roe v. Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood, which was a 1992 case, which allows states to regulate but not ban abortion up until the point of fetal viability to roughly 24 weeks. The decision, per the draft, would likely result in a patchwork of abortion laws, with some states protecting abortion and others prohibiting it outright. That's pretty much the kindest read of what this could do. But let's look at what actually happened. In it, a number of different things were said. I just want to point out, though, that overall, Alito defines rights to abortion incredibly narrowly, or just civil rights incredibly narrowly, says that there is no right to privacy for women on this issue, for anyone who can get pregnant, makes the argument that it's a form of eugenics, that abortion is, because many Black and brown people have abortions, ergo you want to kill them, and it's like, you don't care. He says that, and we'll go over the real thing that he says, which is very interesting. He references an English jurist. This is real, as a basis for his argument. And this English jurist is from the 17th century, and his name is Sir Matthew Hale. And he's someone who legally defended marital rape and sentenced women to die for being witches.
He seems cool. Just like a chill, fun bro.
I'm just a chill fun bro.
I mean,
oh, you don't want to sleep with me? Witch.
Burn. It's so psychotic to reference something that old to begin with. And then that man was just making it up. That guy from the 1700s was just making it up. He just said a thing. And then and then you're going to reference that thing. And it's like, that thing is nothing. He just said it one time. I understand all law is made up essentially, but it's like, what are we grounding this in?
And you're asking me, so first of all, I don't even know what the thing is that he fucking said. Because honestly, marital rape apologist and witch burner, or someone sentencing someone to die for being a witch, you're automatically out of it. Like, I'm not gonna listen to the third thing you're gonna say, buddy. I'm sorry. Anything like, well, he was really kind to animals.
He's also not even American. He was a British dude. It's like, what are we doing? What law are you basing any? It's just like, okay, I can reference a time somebody said something in France. What are we doing? No. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. And so let's dig into exactly what was said. Alito writes that Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. Its reasoning was exceptionally weak, and the decision has had damaging consequences. And far from bringing about a national settlement on the abortion issue, Roe and Casey, which are again Roe v. Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood, have inflamed debate and deepened division. It's time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Wow. Okay. So great. You mean all these, fuckheads who do not give a shit about women's rights, who already are putting in place laws to completely ban abortion outright? Yeah. Tight. Oh, in your severely gerrymandered districts?
Right. That's the real thing. The gerrymandering. So it's like, let's give it back to the states where we've rigged everything.
Absolutely. Okay, so there's a couple other things that he says. We hold, this is from the decision, this is from the leaked decision, we hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled. The Constitution makes no reference to abortion, and no such right is implicitly protected by any constitutional provision. That is actually wrong.
Yeah.
Given that Roe v. Wade was argued based on the right to privacy, which is in the Constitution, and the right to freedom. To say nothing of like life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and all that bullshit. But like, no. We understand that abortion wasn't written in there. Maybe it should have been, but like, there's a lot of things that aren't in the Constitution that we have rights to. So this is why a lot of people are saying this is like a slippery slope. But the fact that it doesn't say the word abortion means, oh no. Yeah, because when the fucking Constitution was written, it was a bunch of white dudes who like did not care. Like, why?
Yeah.
In what world? In another world, in a different universe.
Well, yeah, where most of the country was property. So it's like,
right.
There were no rights for a lot of. It's also like the implication that any rights that didn't exist when the Constitution was formed is also psychotic. And everything that he says, I feel like should put him in prison. I just think he belongs in prison. There's no other place for this man.
Agreed. And he also says insane things like this. So this is his argument. One of his arguments is around the fact that there supposedly aren't enough babies up for adoption. So he cites that the domestic supply of infants relinquished at birth or within the first month of life and available to be adopted had become virtually non-existent. He's like quoting the CDC. So the domestic supply of infants is down. There aren't enough children being ripped out of their mother's arms because that mother cannot afford to raise it, or that mother like come on, people, what are we doing?
The phrasing alone makes my skin hurt. Supply of infants. Everything sounds like a villain in a cartoon.
Yeah, and like I think this is a quote, but like even if it is a quote, oh yeah, it's a CDC National Center for Health Statistics. It's just like even the CDC shouldn't be using that language. The domestic supply of infants is down.
Oh, the CDC said that? No, thank you.
Apparently it's in quotes. That's another reason why. So all these disgusting reasons why essentially women's bodies need to be policed and unprotected, and they need to become second-class citizens. We've obviously talked a lot about on this show what this would do. I talked about my trips down to El Salvador, covering what happens when abortion is fully criminalized. You start locking women up for having miscarriages. You start sentencing them to 30 years in prison for homicide. And don't think that's not coming. So there's a few things to talk about. A lot of people are like, well, maybe it's fine. Like maybe nothing will happen. Maybe the states will get stronger and this and that.
It's not fine. We're being ruled by it's minority rule, and they just are giving us absolutely no say.
Yeah. And here's Minority Leader Mitch McConnell in an interview with USA Today on whether an abortion ban could be possible, outright ban if Roe v. Wade is overturned. And he said, if the leaked opinion became the final opinion, legislative bodies, not only at the state level, but at the federal level, certainly could legislate in that area, McConnell told USA Today when asked if a national abortion ban is, quote, worthy of debate. And if this were the final decision, that was the point, that it should be resolved one way or another in the legislative process. So yeah, it's possible.
That's the most definitive. Like that's him absolutely saying 1000% it will be banned. It will be done.
Oh yeah.
And like with 2 stolen seats.
Yes, absolutely. With these and back to the lying fucks. I mean, so a lot
stolen seats with illegitimate judges who perjured themselves in open court are going to rule that we can't. Also, I have in my small group of best friends who are actively trying to be parents, responsible parents, have had to have multiple miscarriages while trying to have a family, and then have to have a D&C, which is an abortion. And those things would be outlawed, or what you'd be prosecuted for. It's like that woman in Texas who was just like the last week.
Yeah. Oh no, bleed. Why don't you just bleed out? That's safe.
It's unreal how like these are not even nobody is saying that these pregnancies could be carried to term, and you're still going to not allow a medical procedure that's like doesn't make
it's absolutely cruel, and cruelty obviously is the point. Otherwise, of course, we would have things like childcare. We would have things like paid maternity leave and paternity leave. We would have a country that gave a fuck about babies if this were at all about so-called babies. There is, it's been, I want to stick with some of the right wingers and their responses because it's been kind of interesting because they're not like celebrating in the way that you would think. Some of the right wingers are in the Senate specifically are kind of quiet about it. And look, if you thought that your signature issue, the thing that like was the most, you know, the thing that puts you in the seat that you're in, that was in the most important, if you really understood, as I think a lot of them do, that all of those illegal fucks and alleged rapists who are on the conservative bench of the Supreme Court, if they, this plan that they've been hatching for decades, this has come to fruition. This is your moment, baby. Wow. Why don't you celebrate it? They're not. They're actually kind of quiet about it. And you've seen that in a couple ways. Fox News, for example, and other right-wing outlets are only focusing on the leak. Oh my God, who leaked it? What happened? Well, it seems like it might have been a conservative actually who leaked it to try and lock in Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Barrett's votes. And so there's that. But the other thing is they're not trying to really, because they know that Roe is incredibly popular, they're not rubbing it in people's faces. So these are some talking points that they're now releasing. This is within the Senate. The Senate Republicans are sharing these talking points, saying, be compassionate, consensus building on abortion policy. While people have many different views on abortion policy, Americans are compassionate people who want to welcome every new baby into the world. No, we don't. We don't actually want to do that.
They don't
That's
do
the
anything.
point.
You know, it costs $10,000 to have a baby, even with insurance. Like nothing about it is easy, and it's nothing about it is made to be welcoming or helpful or healthy or. This country doesn't want us to have healthy kids.
One, we don't want to welcome every new baby. Two, we're not compassionate people. So yes, wrong on all that fun, but that's cute. Expose the Democrats for the extreme views they hold, the document says, arguing, quote, Joe Biden and Democrats have extreme and radical views on abortion that are outside of mainstream of most Americans. No,
correct. They do. No, Joe Biden's view of abortion is extreme because he thinks that it's like reasonable to be anti-abortion, and it's not fucking reasonable. That's extremist. To me, being centrist is extremist because most people don't care.
Yes.
Why are we in a theocracy all of a sudden? Why do I have to sit here and be ruled by your fucking Bible that is made up also? Why don't you just quote the damn Bible in this ruling or whatever?
Like, I mean, this is my thing too. I'm like, I would rather them just like wag the Bible at me because I'm like, oh, great, you're insane, you're a crazy religious person, rather than actually make. A lot of them are making all these like illegal arguments, like Alito's fucking legal argument. Fuck you, dude. That was a conservative Supreme Court that voted on Roe. All right. Now you're going to tell me that there's no legal precedent. It's not in the Constitution and yada, yada, yada. Stop using your like dumbass legal precedent. And again, the Ben Shapiro's of the world, the like sort of the wannabe conservative intellectuals do the same thing when actually all it's about is taking away rights from half the American population. And are you a religious zealot or not?
Making something that is already incredibly emotional and traumatic even more traumatic, because most of these decisions, it's just going to be fear. It's like you get pregnant, even if you want to get pregnant, it's scary. If you miscarry, you could be prosecuted. Like, all this stuff is scary. It just makes having a family, even if you want it, very fucking scary. The same way it's like if you go in and as you and I know, it's like if you go in and you don't know what's going to happen in that hospital, and you don't know if you're covered by your health insurance. Yes. That is like expensive already. You don't know if this guy who's putting a needle in your spine is covered by your insurance, even though the hospital is making you use this guy. Like all these things that you're supposed to like check ahead. It's an impossible trap of keeping you scared and like powerless
and poor. And well, the other, I mean, yeah, you've got personal experience with that, and you know, on such a lightweight form of it, like I signed up for a different healthcare plan and I didn't know it started there. No one told me it started after they charged me. It like started a week later. and I went and I saw a doctor beforehand. And so now I'm out, whatever, $400, whatever that visit was. And it's just like, I'm not going to pay it. I'm going to argue, but it's just like little
but
things like that.
It's like that. That's my. It's also like I've argued down bills. Like I argued down a $9,000 bill to $450, and you're just like, because it's all made up. But then that's my time. That took me. It took a week of constant, like just Judaism, just calling and calling and calling and calling and being like, hello, I'm your problem now. And we're in this together, you and me, and I'm our problem.
Right.
And we have to solve this. But those hours of time that like I'm a freelancer, that is money. Those are like hours. If I paid myself for it, it would be almost back up to the bill.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. That's the only way to actually get anything or not become bankrupt in our healthcare system. So it's all, and like, I keep having that phrase, abortion is healthcare, just kind of like ringing in my ear, like as I'm sleeping.
It's like the most basic healthcare. It's healthcare when you are literally trying to have a family, and you're like, we have a friend now who just miscarried and had to have a D&E, which is like even later term, and like, she's so sad. Like she's sad because she lost the baby she wanted. I can't even. And then it's like on top of that, you're gonna get like whether the cops gonna come into the room, and question what you did to like it's already like such a toxic, disgusting. The question alone is so unhealthy.
Well, let's look at what the response was from, our fearless leaders, specifically Joe Biden of, he's got control of the executive branch. Democrats have control of the Senate. Democrats have control of the House for now.
Pack that court.
Here he was. I'm like, part of me just died when you said that because I know it won't happen. Here he was responding to a question on whether or not he would suspend, amend, abolish the filibuster, which is the only way that something like codifying Roe v. Wade, making sure that it cannot be undone, piecemeal like this in different states, even if this is overturned. Because as we know, the Women's Health Protection Act was passed in the House, but it was not passed in the Senate. It is not, I don't believe has been up for a vote in the Senate yet. So here's what he had to say. And this is on the day that this news of the leak dropped.
Francesca, did it do away with the filibuster to codify Roe?
I'm not prepared to make those judgments now about, but I think the codification of Roe makes a lot of sense. Look, think what Roe says. Roe says what all basic mainstream religions have historically concluded, that the existence of a human life and being is a question. Is it at the moment of conception? Is it 6 months? Is it 6 weeks? Is it quickening, like Aquinas argued? I mean, so the idea that we're going to make a judgment that is going to say that no one can make the judgment to choose to abort a child based on a decision by the Supreme Court, I think goes way overboard.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
What? Why is everyone so old? This is a man who, if he was our grandfather, we wouldn't be letting him drive anymore. It's like, stop, enough. Why are these people? Nancy Pelosi is not supposed to be driving. She shouldn't be.
And they're both driving the country right into the ground. And no, it's here. Just say abortion is a woman's choice. It's the pregnant person's choice. It is an individual choice. It is not the job of the government to decide. This is about personal freedom. Thank you. Good night. And that's even half of what he said. The beginning of what he said is, I don't think I'm going to basically do anything about it. No, I think we should codify Roe, but I'm not ready to say we should amend the filibuster. Not even for this. Not even for this fucking fundamental issue.
Different field. They're playing a completely different sport, and it's like the Republicans are just dunking and dunking and dunking, and we're like bunting on a baseball field, and they're like, we're not even counting that because it's basketball we're playing. what are we
I
doing?
move the basketball.
It's like we're being nice and we're being centrist because we don't want to scare them. It's like fuck that. They're not scared. They're so emboldened. They're taking away the majority rule. There's no democracy anymore. The vote doesn't matter if they're like.
Bunting on a basketball field is very funny, and then you're like, just use the bat. Just hit their knees. Do something.
Do something.
Splat.
You have a bat. Do anything. We voted to give you the bat.
It's
swinging.
It's there was a follow-up, not a press conference specifically from Joe Biden, which honestly I would have wanted on this issue, but there was a follow-up, and it's not much better. Let's just watch a little bit of his response as he had time to sort of clear his head, and this is what he's saying.
This is about a lot more than abortion. I hadn't read the whole opinion at that time. But this reminds me of the debate with Robert Bork. Bork believed the only reason you had any inherent rights was because the government gave them to you. If you go back and look at the opening comments with the Bork-Biden when I was questioning him as chairman, I said, I believe I have the rights that I have, not because the government gave them to me, which you believe, but because I'm just a child of God. I exist. I delegated by joining this union here to delegate some obligation, some rights I have to the governments for social good. So the idea that somehow there is an inherent right, that there is no right of privacy, that there is no right. Remember the debate we had, you don't remember, but we had a debate about Griswold versus Connecticut. There had been a law saying a married couple could not purchase birth control in the privacy of their own bedroom and use it. Well, that got struck down. Griswold was thought to be a bad decision by Bork, and my guess is the guy's on the Supreme Court now. What happens if you have a state changes the law saying that children who are LGBTQ can't be in classrooms with other children? Is that legit under the way the decision is written? What are the next things that are going to be attacked? Because this MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history.
If only someone were, God, I don't know, president. Like, what if you were like just like the most powerful man in the country, maybe even the world? What would you do? It's so scary. You're right. All those rights are being taken away.
Scary.
If only I were president. God damn it.
That's what they act like. It's like they're like, well, we can't do anything because we can't break the rules. And it's like the rules are all made up. Make new ones. Make them.
It is exactly like your hospital bill. It's all made up.
It's made up. You just need a Jewish mom to call and go, no. It's $450 and I want 15 judges and
yes.
Give me my rights back.
Absolutely.
And then I won't write a Yelp review about this fucking country.
Ooh, our Yelp reviews must be so bad right now. I just want Yelp reviews from foreigners being like, I visited America. Overrated.
It's so embarrassing that we're just like it's like, even like Veep and Handmaid's Tale all seem like super lame now. Like it's all this.
So lame.
This is worse than those things. We're literally going to be going to Canada.
And it is funny that the thing that felt the most accurate, House of Cards, is no longer because Kevin Spacey's a sexual predator. Like if that's
because he got canceled, because he got kicked off the show, because the actual sexual predator would not.
Right. Yeah.
Would be on the fucking Supreme Court.
Frank Underwood is totally fine. Frank Underwood keeps on like living. He gets reelected, whatever the fuck else happens.
The most unrealistic thing about that show is that the main actor who was proven to be a sexual predator was fired. That is not realistic to politics in this country.
All right. Well, there's so much more. And I don't know if we have time to get into it all, but oh man, maybe we'll save this Matt Gaetz and these memes for a little bit later. But let's see. Oh, I really want to do that. But okay, why don't we bring in our guest, and then maybe we can do a little bit of a bonus after this. Okay, Robin's saying that she maybe has more time. We'll try and get into this pretty quickly. So I want to. This is gonna be great to edit later. Yay, Francesca, your future self fucking hates you. Let's look at one person who did stand up and then talk about some shittier Dems, which is Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York. Had this to say, and it was actually nice. I know we had Elizabeth Warren being like, "I'm angry," and we're like, "Oh, I like that. Like, I love when you're angry and you shake like a leaf." I'm just kidding. She's fine. But here's Kirsten Gillibrand saying what needs to be said.
This is an issue that is defining for this country today. And if the American people don't stand up for equality for every American at this moment in time, we will be undermining a right to privacy in more than this context. Women deserve freedom and bodily autonomy. We deserve to be able to make decisions about when we are having children, under what circumstances we are having children, how many children we are having, and at what time we are having children. I would like to speak to America's men for 1 minute. Imagine you do not have authority over your own body for 10 months. Imagine if that decision-making would not be taken away, even if you would die in childbirth, even if you couldn't decide who you were having children with, even if you couldn't decide when you were having that child. I don't think a man in America could actually imagine not having control of his body, his bodily functions, what happens to him, and what life would be like for 10 months. It is an outrage that we have 5 justices on the Supreme Court who lied in their confirmation hearings in order to be confirmed. It is an outrage that in America today, that our judicial system is so corrupted and so politicized and no longer representative of the will of the people. 5 justices said they respect precedents. 5 said that Roe v. Wade was established precedents. 5 said they would never undermine established precedent. It is unconscionable what this decision will do to the American people.
Yep. And they lied. We knew they were lying. We saw them lying live on C-SPAN. They're lying about, I mean, you've got
what are the consequences for lying? That's what I want to know. And this will parlay into your Patreon, the Johnny Depp case, because what are the consequences when you're found out to have lied? It seems like you shouldn't be allowed to sit on the highest court. To me,
I mean, you'd get fired for like lying on your resume at 100%. This point. Look, we've all been like, yeah, I have Excel spreadsheet experience. And then you're like in Excel and you're like, what the fuck, but this is a lot different and it's for life. That is a job for life. And they can be impeached, obviously. But the idea that we would ever have the majorities necessary, a filibuster-proof majority necessary to even impeach those justices is insane. And granted, like Joe Manchin voted for fucking Brett Kavanaugh. But other than that, like no Democrat voted for Amy Coney Barrett. So there is, they tried to hold the line. There was not a lot they could do. But it's incredible to me that you're just like, God damn, you're going to let Mitch fucking McConnell run the
just
table
shut
on
down
you
the whole government. Shut it down.
Yeah.
Don't give money to the military. Don't vote on anything. Just shut it down until they give us what we want, which is actual representation.
Yes.
Because our vote have a matter at all.
This is how far out from reality, and thank God Kirsten Gillibrand was able to articulate a little bit of what I think most working people and regular people in this country are feeling. But they're so far from the idea that they wouldn't be able to pay a fucking healthcare bill. We pay for their fucking Viagra. I know for a fact our tax dollar money pays for Mitch McConnell to get hard. I'm like, seriously. This is the level that we pay for that shit. They have no idea what it's like to try and make ends meet. They have no idea what it's like to get stuck with a bill you can't pay. They have no idea what it's like to want an abortion and not be able to get an abortion because of a lack of access or money. No, they will always be able to get it. And so it was nice to see that. The very last thing before I bring poor Robin, who's gonna, I'm very excited, but the Democrats aren't just terrible in terms of a messaging and a response. They're not just terrible in terms of not doing away with the filibuster. It doesn't seem like Kirsten Sinema is in favor of doing away with the filibuster in order to enshrine reproductive rights. But they're specifically allowing anti-choice Democrats to continue to run and are supporting them, like Henry Cuellar. Henry Cuellar in Texas, who is going up for a runoff election against Jessica Cisneros, who is a progressive Justice Democrat, on May 24th. Democratic leadership, as in Nancy Pelosi and Jim Clyburn, are still supporting the House's only anti-abortion Democrat, who is Henry Cuellar. Henry Cuellar was the only one who did not vote for that Women's Health Protection Act. And in this runoff, so let's look at the endorsements. He secured support from the highest ranks of the Democratic leadership in the House, as he did in 2020. Speaker Nancy Pelosi endorsed Cuellar in March, even after an FBI raided his home, which was connected to the practices of an unnamed U.S. businessman and the nation of Azerbaijan. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, the Prospect reported, announced his endorsement on the same day as the FBI raid. The same fucking day. Like, well, I already had the email drafted, What are you going to do? And then last week, of course, Mr. James Clyburn just, really putting his finger on the scale here against progress, no matter where it is. House Majority Whip would join him for a Get Out the Vote rally in San Antonio, scheduled for today. This was this week. So again, this is an anti-choice Democrat still being allowed to run. And mind you, Nancy Pelosi for a very long time has said it's okay to be anti-choice and a Democrat. No, it's not. It's actually not at all okay. It's fine to not personally want to get an abortion or endorse a family member, whatever it is. You can personally be against it, but it's not okay for you to actively be against the reproductive rights as they stand. And I would argue, and this is the last thing I'll say, it is on the Democrats for their massive failure for not having a plan of action to combat all the ways that we saw the Supreme Court justices being groomed to fill the seats that they are now sitting in. And also, obviously, thinking that, it's the law of the land. They lied to it. Yeah, they fucking lied to you because they've been talking about it behind closed doors for 1 million years about how they want to undo Roe. So what are you going to do about it? What have they done about it? They don't even say the word abortion, as Liz Winstead said on this show. Biden doesn't say the word abortion. They tiptoe around it. They allow Democrats who are anti-choice to run. And this was from Heather Digby. She writes in Salon that Democrats have never run on basically being more aggressive and offensive on abortion rights, apparently because they felt it was a settled issue, which meant they could play around with it on the edges to possibly attract a few anti-choice votes without really putting much of anything on the line. They acted skittish about it and it carried over to policy, like the Hyde Amendment banning government assistance for abortion, to the egregious political malpractice that led to the showdowns over abortion coverage in the Affordable Care Act. They have never put any muscle into defending this right that majorities clearly support. If anything, they have used abortion as a bargaining chip, giving the impression that it is an expendable issue they can give to the other side without consequence. Joe Biden was supportive of the Hyde Amendment. That is part of that. I mean, remember not only was it part of the ACA too, not funding healthcare, but then remember how birth control became a huge sticking point with Republicans about the ACA. Oh, please, I'll do anything to be able to afford $50 a month. Jesus Christ.
I'm still so confused how they can be. They don't want abortion and they don't want healthcare. What do you want? What
You
are
mean,
you like?
yeah,
They
contraception? You mean birth control?
they don't. It's like, okay, even if we were in this universe where we're like women are on Earth to solely carry the the seed of men or whatever to fruition, fine. Even in that fucking world, where's the healthcare? Give me the free healthcare. If you don't want that, all of it's always been a lie. It's always been a lie, whatever the reason that they're doing it. Even the Republicans play. Also, not the Democrats are just like corporate shills, and they always have been, and that's why they're like they've just been around to hold the line to just be like, okay, well, let's just not let the poor people get everything, right? And so that's
Hillary
why
Clinton will win. Oh, motherfuckers, you ran the wrong candidate. And back to the old people thing, last thing I'll say, I do feel like Bernie would say something different in this moment. In fact, he has. And I feel like standing on a national stage as the most powerful guy in the fucking country, most powerful person, defend a woman's right to choose, defend the right to choice.
he's a 95-year-old Catholic. Like,
yeah, exactly.
He doesn't know what to say in this moment. He's not supposed to. He doesn't represent the most of this country.
Yeah. Take
He's
that,
extremist.
Catholics. No, he is. He is. All right, we got to move on. Let's
All right.
talk about, let's bring in my other guest for the rest of the show. She's a proud socialist and a city council member for Minneapolis's Ward 2. Please welcome Robin Wonsley.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Robin.
I was on fire. I was hearing from the back room. I was like, oh, all right then.
I didn't realize how quickly that would go, which was like, do. Like, oh, there's so much more to bitch about. We didn't even get to Matt Gaetz talking about how sad, unfulfilled women went to go protest, and they're going to go home to their cats and their microwave meals. And I'm like, that's better than a night with your ass. Like, really?
That doesn't sound bad at all. Yeah.
It doesn't sound at all that. I love kitty cats. Robin, okay, so you were recently elected is it 2021 that you were elected to city council?
No, this January 3rd.
Congratulations
on your victory, which I know was hard fought. And tell me, I guess I want to talk about your ward specifically, but I guess more specifically about Minneapolis. This is the place where 2 years ago, George Floyd was murdered. And now 2 years later, you have the murder of Amir Locke. But I guess just sticking with the 2020 moment, what's been like the lasting impact? We'll get to the police and politicians, but just almost like culturally, like on a feeling level, like how was the city forever changed after that moment?
Yeah, and I would broaden it out from just the city, the world. I mean, the public lynching by the Minneapolis Police Department of George Floyd literally happened in front of the world. The world watched as it happened. And in the following days, the world also took up action. I mean, and of course, the site or the origin story happened here, but the world kind of followed suit where, the uprising that would take place here in Minneapolis would then ripple all across the United States, making it, one of the most historic civil rights, reckonings in U.S. history. And then that rippled across the world where we saw more than, dozens of actions in more than, I believe at that time, 50 plus countries. And I think it signifies what we're even experiencing now with this response or with the pending decision around Roe versus Wade. It showed working class people just how powerful we are. And I say that because I know liberal, philosophy and the framing of the events that transpired here in Minneapolis is not what they don't want what actually took place here to be the actual truth. The fact that working class people, Black and brown people, folks from all walks of life literally rose up in the streets by the thousands and not only demanded an end to the policing that led to the violent death of George Floyd, but a policing that constantly wreaked havoc and terror on all of our lives. And not only did they say, you know, we need that to end, if you don't, shit is going to get real. And to make sure you understand that, we're going over to this third police precinct and we're burning this bitch down. And I know liberal, especially here, the Democrats have done a really great job at painting this narrative that there were outside agitators that took over the third precinct that incited the riots. And I want to say that is inherent and intentional whitewashing. While it's true that our city did have a dynamic where we saw outside agitators that were affiliated with white supremacist networks, the events that happened on this ground was rooted in working class people's oppression and basically just their immense amount of frustration and just complete over it like energy with that oppression that, you know, George Floyd's murder represented, but along with the COVID pandemic, the mismanagement of that, so many things that you already highlighted about, you know, that was the moment where racial capitalism was very clearly proven to be trash. Like, we have this global pandemic where, you know, years ago you could have guaranteed universal health care so that everyone could have access to the healthcare services and providers that they needed to weather this, that we could have had the treatments available to us to weather this. And instead, we allow millions of folks to die, not only here in Minneapolis, I mean, in the US, but across the world. So you just saw on both ends under this trash ass system of racial capitalism, like the colliding of racism and how that intersects with policing, but also around like healthcare and our inability to have our basic needs be met. Like that just collided, and it was an explosive force. And working class people was like, "Fuck it," and we're seeing that now. Like
exactly,
y'all want to take away rights that we fought for decades ago? Fuck it. We're in the streets now.
I mean, I think that we forget that moment because we want to forget because the pandemic has been just so taxing on all of us for many different reasons. But you're exactly right that you're like the thing that really, obviously, a lynching in daylight in front of people. I mean, like that bone chillingness is already there. But on top of it, you're talking about a reduced, you know, a moment of a pandemic, a reduced state, like, oh, there's nowhere to be found. We can't even get a mask, a free mask, you know, to save our fucking lives, literally.
Yeah, but y'all have a tank coming
but you've
through.
got a tank, but you've got someone's knee on someone's neck over a supposed counterfeit bill.
Well, we just saw this a few days ago in Los Angeles. When people went out to protest the abortion rights, the police response was insane, and that's terrorism. It's like, if we can't even go out and say that we don't agree with this and we don't want this, then we're not in that's not freedom. Like, why are our tax dollars paying for us to be pushed out of the street? It doesn't make sense to me.
But it highlights the role of policing under an unjust system of racial capitalism. It's there to maintain the boundary between us, the peasants, whose rights are constantly under threat, the ones who are constantly told we need to be civil to our very oppressors who attack our everyday needs and our everyday rights. The police helps to reinforce that boundary of us and the ruling elite. The ruling elite is the SCOTUS members who can make decisions about our lives. It's the politicians who align themselves with, you know, big pharma industries and healthcare industries. It's those who are aligned with Jeff Bezos and make sure that his profits are straight. And police are there to keep us in check and to make sure we don't do what we're doing right now. What we did in 2020 in the wake of George Floyd is revolt against those who make our days, our everyday lives, a living hell. They wake up every single day and choose violence in the most insidious ways. And when we literally say that is violence, we ain't got no tanks. All I can do is just stand in the streets and say stop. All I can do is show up to the Capitol or the White House and be like, this is not right. We're then violent. We're abusive. We're not, handling things well. But again, it just illuminates the role of policing and shows actually where the police is actually aligned with their interests. And I hope it's crystallized in this moment that in every single historic social struggle in our country and across the world, the police has never joined the side of the right, of the oppressed, of those who, civil liberties were under attack, who was being gassed. Like, they were never on the right side of history.
Yeah, they've always been there to protect property. That was what they were designed to, that's their origin story.
Yes, and exactly. And that often was human beings. And so, talk to me about, now you're on city council. Amir Locke, 22 years old. He is killed as he's sleeping on the couch of a friend. He's in a blanket. If you guys obviously seen that footage, it's again, like bone chilling. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. Like, it's just disgusting. And this is under a mayor who has had promised to end no-knock warrants in Minneapolis. You're now on the city council, and you've actually had a lot of strong words is it Mayor Frey or Mayor Fry?
Mayor Jacob Fry.
Mayor Jacob Fry. So what are you calling for? And what does Amir Locke, and I know others sort of death and murder, what does that signify to you about this promise of reform?
Well, as someone who clearly identifies as an abolitionist, who, my entire campaign and even my charge as now elected council member, a government official, has been around using my platform, using my power to, create a new model of public safety that does not or has no roots in policing. We need to be moving away from just the expansion of the police state, and by that, armed law enforcement apparatus that is not charged with tending to the actual, comprehensive array of crises that working class people experience, from mental health crisis. That is rampant, especially when we're talking about gender dynamics, domestic violence. The system of policing that we have right now is not meeting the needs of that. And even let's talk about the crimes that is actually often committed under capitalism. They're not here resolving investigations around wage theft. They're not the ones who are addressing, the violation of human rights within many of our corporate, headquarters and businesses in the city. Like, they're not meeting these expansive list of needs that, working class people experience on a day to day. And as we noted, they were not designed to create that. So for me, my charge is really around how do we use, for instance, the creation of a new Department of Public Safety as that baseline where we can actually invest in the aspects of our current public safety services. At least in the city, we just received a phenomenal presentation from our unarmed safety workers, where the data backs it. They're doing amazing. The community loves to see those workers in the community tending to people who have mental health crises. They want to see people not with a badge, not with a gun, to address traffic violations, like even the everyday conflicts that we constantly bring in these aggressive law enforcement officers to tend to, and then be surprised that someone dies or get assaulted. They're excited that we're not bringing that in. We're moving that away. So I want to see the investment of that. I want to see more mental health services. I want to see our unarmed safety apparatus grow, be fully staffed, and have that be the model. But I also want that to be coupled with a very aggressive model of accountability that has a democratic oversight capabilities that's built within it. How are we bringing the public? As we've seen with SCOTUS, the issue is we have constantly unelected parties making decisions about our everyday lives, and we often have no say in the decisions that they make. That happens with policing as it stands right now under our charter. It's the mayor who has the legal authority to enforce oversight over our police department. That excludes the public. And that's been reflective in why we're in this moment, with Amir Locke being killed even and 2 years ago with George Floyd. It shows that, the current model of policing, the oversight, the lack of political will amongst our mayor, amongst the leadership of police departments to even wrangle their terrorizing law enforcers, it constantly puts us in these positions where people are dying. It constantly jeopardizes the credibility of yes, we need systems of public safety, but it does not have to be rooted in violent interactions. It doesn't have to be rooted in enforcing unjust relational ways of being with one another, where you're more interested in making sure your boss, the targets, in our city, make sure they have their goods protected, as opposed to someone who is like struggling with a mental health crisis. That's your priority.
Right.
So I'm looking at building something broader than that, because we need something broader than that. And if we don't build something broader than that, we're going to keep having Black and brown people. And I want to know too, Justine Diamond, that was killed in a affluent area of Minneapolis, a white Australian woman just several years ago. This impacts everyone. When we had the uprising, as you mentioned, tanks was rolling through predominantly white neighborhoods too. And the SWAT team and the National Guards were throwing flash grenades at white people. Those flash grenades did not have any type of direction on them that was only meant for Black people. Everyone was getting them. So that's what's at stake right now for anything meaningful about public safety.
Can I ask you about question 2, which and maybe your involvement in that, which didn't pass, but it was the idea. Well, I mean, you can explain it about, but briefly, creating a public safety unit that is not the police. Explain what it was, and maybe kind of thoughts on like where to from here, considering it didn't pass.
Yeah, so question 2 had 2 big main components to it that I somewhat touched at. One, it was recognizing the police department needed to be completely eliminated. Not that was the starter. Like George Floyd should have been a clear indicator that 150 years of the policing that we've had to endure is not effective, is violent, is racist, and it needs to go. The second piece was the way that our current policing staffing is structured, thanks to our police union, which, by the way, for several years was headed by a known white supremacist. The president, Bob Crow, former president, was in line with white supremacist groups. They helped create a staffing minimum in their contract that basically says majority of our policing officers or personnel needs to be walking the beat in our communities. They need to be charged with visibility only. It don't matter if you don't solve one crime. We just need you to be patrolling and all over the communities, especially Black and brown communities. The 70-30% rule. Basically, the charter would eliminate that, because it's very clear. We even as council received a presentation that noted that MPD staffing levels is actually way higher than it needs to be based off of our service calls right now. And it actually advocated for the creation of more unarmed safety personnel to tend to, again, all these other crises that law enforcement are not equipped to address. But this policing staffing minimum prevents us from putting majority of our public safety personnel towards the areas where they need to go. And then the oversight piece, that was the third biggest piece. Right now, again, the mayor has sole authority over our police department. And it's clear he's trash. We just had 2 weeks ago, the Minnesota Department of Human Rights investigation. And by the way, we're also anticipating another investigative report from the Department of Justice, but the Human Rights Department looked at a 10-year period and basically said this department has been racist, been misogynist, been violent, has violated rampant, human rights in the community for this decade. And by the way, half of that decade, the leadership of this department, the oversight, leader was our current mayor, Mayor Jacob Fry. So in hindsight of that, the charter change would basically say, look, Mayor, it's clear this ain't your strong suit. You need help. You need some help. And the best help you can get is from the legislative body, the city council. We represent the public. We are the avenue of bringing the public into our decision making. So let us help with managing and enforcing accountability over this trash department. That was the baseline. And of course, no, why would we want to do that? The ruling class in Minneapolis was like, nope, we don't want no public engagement. In fact, we know our current manager and boss is so trash, but that don't even matter. We're going to give him more power. we're going to make sure he can also control more than 20 other departments, including the other department that he's historically failed at managing. Like, you got reward. I love
He's
Twitter.
failing up.
He's failing upwards. The reward for being a mediocre white man in Minneapolis, like, it's just beautiful. Mayor Jagger Fry is a complete embodiment of that. And as a result of it, people keep dying. And also, you keep repressing movements who are looking to disturb and eradicate the barriers that the system of white supremacy, that capitalism represents in our city, that allows Black and brown people and working class people to continue to be under attack by our very policing department. And we're here being like, we need something new. And you all are like, no, we need the status quo, and don't hold us accountable on that. So that's kind of the summary of question 2 and kind of what happened. They defeated it. They got all the rich, wealthy people to come out and vote against it.
but like the, I think the takeaway, sadly, on a national level, was like, oh, defund isn't popular, but it did not fail by that much. If my numbers are right, 44% said yes, and 44% yes is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know there's probably a lot of hindsight and thoughts on strategy, but 44% is a good number to work with. I mean, if you're starting at 12%, just from a campaign perspective, and I'm no organizer, but even I know, I'm like, that you could work with. That is like, you have a failed system if 44% of people are like, no, we need something completely new.
Yes, absolutely. And there's still the energy. I mean, I got to also represent an opening of that, of those numbers, like someone who ran unapologetically as a socialist, as someone who's been very active in our Black Lives Matter movement around dismantling policing as it stands, around addressing police brutality. And my campaign actually created a socialist vision for a public safety. And I'm in the position right now where, through the creation of this new Department of Public Safety, we get to build exactly that. And we get to build that alongside working class people in the driving seat of creating this new vision. And it's become very clear, with the Mayor Locke. Also, I want to name too some of the successful markers of the opposition to question 2 was basically our mayor and the corporate wing of our city basically being like, trust our token Black police chief. He's going to take care of everything. He's going to save all the dying babies in the hood. We're good. And then literally 6 weeks later, that man bounced up out of here, was like, retired. All right, you do it. Bye. And ever since, it's been a shit show. The mayor did not anticipate just his whole world, the fear-based community he created throughout the campaign to stall our campaign for a new model of public safety is just crumbling around him. So we're seeing this opening, and I'm excited that this opening is merging with this growing, also just like active organizing and protest that's happening on the ground as a result of the SCOTUS decision. And I hope people recognize that these decisions are interrelated. Like what happens around policing is not separate from what happens around the future of our reproductive rights. And I come like the quote in regards to the Holocaust from Minister, what was his name? Nicholas? No, German pastor Martin. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but like when he's talked about, first they came for the communists and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a communist, and they came for the socialists. I didn't speak out, and then they came for the Jews and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for me, and then there was no one left to speak for me. I hope people recognize this is currently we're in these times. They've come for the Black folks,
Yeah, those white women who elected Trump should take notice, because now they're coming for your ability to have privacy with your doctor. Like it's not just abortion.
And I do think that on the like sort of silver lining to how fucked this, in terms of Roe v. Wade is in it being overturned, is the ways that I think a lot of those for lack of a better term, neoliberal Democrats who are, sort of comfortable, middle upper class, who felt like their issue was done. They don't, no, let's defund the police. No, they're crazy. No. Like, it's like, no. You're down in the same bullshit that everyone else is in, has been inundated with.
We don't like you either. Like we want you out.
We don't like you, and we all have to work together.
Exactly.
I wanted to thoughts on before I let you go on a national level, right?
I want to ask one thing.
Yeah.
Where do you? I've always wondered this, and since I do, it's like policing has always. There's every time somebody is shot and killed, there's the reasoning is someone was reaching for my gun, or they were reaching for my weapon, or what. And it's like, well, so the argument for having unarmed response teams seems logical to me, because it's always when a weapon is involved that if you didn't have a gun to reach for, nobody's getting shot in that situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the reverse is that, well, there's guns are rampant in our country because there's no anti-gun laws,
any gun control,
and so there's no gun control. So the police are the police are afraid. They're taught to be completely afraid in every interaction that everybody has a gun. That everybody is.
That's what they learn in training. I'm like, what the fuck are they even learning in training? Just how to get more scared. Like, yes. You're the one with all of the militarized equipment. How are you more scared?
It's like, well, shouldn't police want gun control? I guess it's like, obviously we're not aligned on anything in with the cops, but it seems like we should be aligned on that. Like,
the one thing, yeah.
Don't they want that also? Don't they want to not be everything they roll up on to potentially have a gun? Like, don't they want the guns out of here?
Well, I think that gets back at the point that I raised earlier of like, this should, I hope, crystallize for other segments of working class people, especially suburbia, middle class white women who often think, policing issues are only relegated to, the most impoverished communities of color, that, again, where the police is actually aligned with from a pure class standpoint. Because I would broaden it out. Yes, police should be absolutely for gun control, but I remember asking a law enforcer just several weeks ago, because we also have rent control, happening here in Minneapolis, organizing to make that possible and follow suit behind St. Paul, which currently has the strongest rent control policy in the country. If we know the data backs that the communities that are most over police are those that have been least divested in, meaning they have the most or least investment in actually quality, affordable housing. And that then requires you as a law enforcer to go spend your time out with the sole purpose of basically, going around these subpar housing areas and basically picking up people, making contact with those in poverty. In that case, shouldn't that mean you should be for rent control? Mm-hmm. If that means you do not have to then keep having these negative interactions with people based off of their lack of access to quality, affordable, and public housing. The same with climate. Right. If you truly did not want to have to constantly be in contact with communities who are being deprived of clean air, shouldn't you be for also climate justice? If that means you no longer have to have these negative interactions, these criminalizing and violent interactions with people just based off of the lack of access to civil liberties and basic necessities, you should be for that.
Right.
Yeah, do we see them show up at the actions for rent control? No. Do we see them show up right now for actions to protect safe abortions? No. We see them doing the opposite. So it just shows where, again, whose side are they really on?
Totally. Like, aren't they tired of being like capitalism's shitty Roomba that just like has to suck up all the stuff that all the inequality, all the lack of access, all the stuff we don't spend money on, they're just like, oh, I guess I'll just eat more shit, like that is, and of course we'll give you a bunch of money and we'll give you a bunch of weapons and everything will be great. Like, it is also not a great position. And if police weren't fucking like bullying the unhoused for half their job, which it feels like, especially in places like California, it feels like that's what it is. Hey, maybe they'd have, I don't know, a nicer day of work. I don't, like fewer calls, more donuts.
And we see it because in the imaginary of, I think, the public, especially when it comes to public safety, you think of rural areas, you think of the suburban areas where their police departments are probably not having the same interactions with their resident. You have the police officer or the sergeant who grew up in your community. Probably it was like several generations. They daddy, they great granddaddy was the sergeant of the town. They are the ones giving donuts and stuff to the kids, high-fiving them on the way to school. Like, they see that as like reflective of our entire policing system of like, no, this is fine. And it's like, why it's fine in suburbia? Why it's fine in affluent communities? It's because, again, you're not having to deal with a young person who is, acting up because they didn't get sleeping at night because they didn't know where they were staying. You didn't have to deal with a homeless person because everyone has housing in that community. You didn't have to deal with a person enduring mental stress because they lost their job because people have quality and gainful employment in that community. So like, let's fix that part,
Yeah.
I also think that I grew up in a place like that. I grew up in rural South, and the cops were not solving crimes. Like, they simply were completely ineffective. And like, we made fun of, like, one time our house got broken into, and then the cop came and was like, he walked around the house and came back around and then pointed at his own footprints and was like, footprints. And we were like, okay.
That's the same story. I heard a similar story of like,
it's just not effective. It's just like, we could have just
they're so dumb. There's also like, I think a friend told me a story of like a small town, and the cop was like, the home was burglarized, and they come in with like guns drawn, and you're like, no, days ago, and they're like, I'm a fucking hero. Like, no, you're not. You're an idiot right now. Robin, last words on the national agenda around policing, and specifically because we haven't seen much action, even the kind of like lightweight George Floyd justice and policing, which, eliminates no-knock warrants and things like that, has not been passed. Do just please thoughts on this issue at a federal level.
Again, I think this gets at what we should be looking at with just some of the Supreme Court, organizing. And as someone who ran as an independent Democratic Socialist, I fully did so because I believe the way in which we get any type of concessions, any type of transformative change, it has to happen through independent political organizing. It cannot be done in the faith of a Democratic Party that's just on the opposite side of the same coin in terms of being in full alignment with the wishes and desires of the corporate elite that really runs our country. So I think we placed our hopes and dreams in the wake of George Floyd into a political system, into specifically Democratic politicians who said we're going to do something. And how many times have we heard that? Yeah, they were going to deliver on debt cancellation. People still paying. How many times like we've heard like they have been promising and saying they were going to deliver all these things outside of policing for a number of years, and it never happens. So I mean, we should not be surprised that the same party that again is in alignment with the corporate elite, and as we established earlier, if they're in alignment with them as well as the police is there to not only protect the wealth, the assets of the corporate elite, but also the politicians who are part of that same, government structure.
Truly, though, it's like Democrats are Republicans and Republicans are terrorists, and that's the system that we're in. The conversations move so far right, like even since I was a kid, and I grew up in North Carolina, where that they've gerrymandered it in such an insane way, where the majority of the people I grew up around are liberal, and there's simply been no representation in that state for my entire life. And there's like we have to just stop thinking that Democrats give a fuck and start being like, let's elect Gen Z, and just like it's all Instagram government. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I don't give a shit, man. I trust a TikTok choreographed dance. Like, that's doing more on a lot of issues than like elected officials.
Yes.
Present company excluded.
But I mean, to organize ourselves at the end of the day to do exactly what we're doing, keeping the pressure on. I do want to note that we brought up Amir Locke. Amir also murder. You can see that right now. The world has the ability through the city of Minneapolis to watch that young man be killed by the police, wrapped in a blanket right now, and no charges were brought forward. The only difference was there was no uprising. Why, when George Floyd, was murdered, less than 7 days after Derek Chauvin killed him in front of the world, the police precinct burnt down. There was massive uprisings happening through the city and across the country. Less than 7 days later, that the ruling elite of our city was like, we'll take this L. Chauvin, you got to get charges.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't require that. But I think of that window of period where we saw mass mobilizations and organizing happening on the ground outside of our political parties, and just the immense amount of pressure that put on our political system. We saw everyone being like, oh God, let me run a check. Like Banks was ready to create all the public housing. They was like, we'll with the reparations right now. Like that window of opportunity, like everyone wanted to give something, make a concession to try to restore order in the status quo. And I think we need to take lessons from that of like independent mass organizing and mobilizations. I think is also the way to go to deliver the gains and a new model of public safety. And it has to be tied to a class analysis. We have to know that, again, we're not doing this against your Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob might be cool, but Uncle Bob is inherently working for an institution that is not for the working class. It is designed to not be for that class. It's designed to not be for Black people. It's not designed to be for protecting our civil liberties. And if we can accept that, then that allows us to really build for something different, something meaningful. And there are experts in our communities who know what that looks like. People fear that we're going to be starting from scratch. We don't know what to do. We are brilliant. We know what is necessary right now to keep people safe. And we also know what we've had to endure that does not keep people safe. Let's lean into our creativity and our brilliance and trust that collectively we can build something better. We have a charge. We have a responsibility to one another to do that. We're seeing that with reproductive rights. We all know like this fight is for all of us. It's for future generations. And if we need to go and get rid of SCOTUS or oust all these Democrats to make something new happen, then people are like, I'm down. Like, let's go.
The court is completely illegitimate. The court is absolutely illegitimate at this point. It doesn't. It's there's no hallowed ground anymore. It's just like get them out or pack it and let's.
Yes. Exactly.
So that Francesca's daughter can be a slut. Like all I want is for your daughter to be able to be a slut as God intended.
And I don't want to be a grandma. Like she could be a slut and I don't want to be a grandma. No, we should seize the court. We got to seize the court like like if only it were like a Russian, yacht. Like if it were Putin's yacht. That's how I want to seize it. And just.
That's how they did.
Impound the court. All right, Robin, will you stay for the one more quick segment? You've been amazing. You just like inspire me. And you know what? You remind me also of, a similar conversation I had with Tiffany Caban in New York. And, the same thing is there. You guys have access to data that tells you that the unarmed officials, people without guns and badges, as you said, are the way to go. And yet no one has the ovaries to stand up and actually do, actually like put more unarmed people and take away all like the more armed people. They see the data, they know what works, and yet nobody actually will stick their neck out for that policy. So it is incredible to have folks like yourself, Tiffany, and so many others in other cities who are starting to, push that fight into these important places. So
yes, absolutely. It's because of the movement behind me. And so I have what's the other choice?
Really, honestly, it's bad. The other choice is bad. There's no choice anymore. In fact,
it's like Handmaid. Y'all want the real episode of Handmaid's Tale? Do you really
we're in it.
That life?
Insane. So we're gonna switch gears and ask, obviously, given all the bad things we talked about, what is good? I can start. I'll start with what is good. I wrote this to you, Robin, in an example, but warm sheets right out of the dryer are so nice. Like there's nothing, you just want to like, you put yourself in them and you're just right back in the womb, you know, or wherever you need to be. And it's the nicest feeling. No one should let dryers like sheets that have just come out of the dryer go to waste. That's my very, very shallow, what's good. The second thing that's good this week, I think the National Labor Relations Board said that all the Amazons, like mandatory attendance meetings they were making their workers go to, that was like, we hear you have to sit for an hour while we tell you why unions are bad, that's illegal. And so, you know, the Biden administration has been fucking up on a lot of ways, but the NLRB has been good. And so that is what is good. Oh, and Starbucks. Paige in the chat is saying, Paige, the producer, is saying also Starbucks. Starbucks. Oh, is it Starbucks, not just Amazon? I thought it was both. But anyway, that is good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, because the Starbucks by my house was closed today, and I thought that was interesting because it probably has something to do with like their attempts at union busting, and then like they don't have workers right now because that shit was open on Christmas Day. You know, like
right? They probably closed just to have an anti-union meeting.
Maybe.
But also noting too, the National Relations Labor Board, they didn't just wake up and chose, you know, accountability and like pro-unionism. It took literally like thousands of Starbucks workers being like, you want your latte in the morning or not? Like, so then we're like, oh, okay, let's actually, you know, not like, let's do something about this.
Yeah. Robin, what's good for you?
What is good? What is good? Oh man, this is hard. This is so hard.
My therapist makes me start with this, and it is challenging.
Do you want Erin to go first?
I was gonna say community is good. I had the privilege of spending just this weekend doing a writing retreat with two of my close sisters. And just having that time, like it's so easy to feel alienated and isolated and just like in your own yuck right now because the world is shitty and it feels like hot flaming garbage right now. And being around people who are like actually doing normal things and like living their best selves and like laughing. I mean, just like this, like, you know, being like, yo, it's cool for your daughter to be a slut. Like, literally just talking about it. Me and my friends are out here trying to figure out what's a hot girl summer like for us right now. You know, as elected, like, I'm glad I can like have that conversation and just be me with my homegirls. So just like sisterhood is so beautiful.
Oh, that sounds so nice.
And when it rains, when it like just newly rains, that is like the best nap weather as a grown person.
The smell.
Yes.
Us LA girls were like, the smell.
It's mostly just like wet concrete, water. Though.
Wet concrete.
I think in LA it's clean air for one moment. We're like,
totally.
Clean air, nothing like it to put you to bed.
Yeah.
That's very good. I love those. Erin, what's good for you?
I also want to, I think community, even like this conversation, it's been fun to meet Robin and be inspired by like what you're doing. And I think that it takes us back to like as young moms, the young, stunning moms that we are, that like we can do something and we will, and that it can also be fun. Like it's really scary, but like there is like our alignment, it can be joyful and can get something done is fun. I also really like hawks. I'm super into hawks soaring.
I just became a third grader. I really like hawks.
We're talking about the bird, right?
I am talking about the bird. I am fully obsessed. There's like 4 in my neighborhood, and I feel personally connected to them. And when I go negative, I just think about a hawk soaring and I feel better.
Oh,
Can I
I
share
love
a
that.
fun story about that? If
Please.
you see, my campaign logo is like Robin, like the bird. And it's
Oh, I
like a
clocked it.
bird.
I love it.
But when we first were like trying to figure out what my logo would be, my team like pulled up a bunch of different birds, and for some reason I naturally gravitated to the hawk. I didn't know it was a hawk.
The best.
Literally. And our team was like, Robin, we cannot go with a hawk. You do know hawks eat robins. Like they
They do eat songbirds, but mostly
That's
they eat
good
mice.
PR. That's a good
Mostly
team.
They eat mice.
that was like, we cannot. No. So you want to be a predator? Is that what you want to communicate to your future constituents? I was like, wait,
But why not though?
Hawks have incredible vision. They see things
That's-
from miles away. They can they like swoop in and just get like a very specific thing done.
Kind of like Robin.
Yeah.
my
It
team
should be.
wasn't
It
for
should be Hawk Wonsley. I've called it.
future children here, hawks.
Yes.
Yes.
Robin, thank you so much for joining us. How can people follow you?
Yes, please come through. Drop us a follow, likes on all of our social media. We have Robin #4 MPLS on Twitter, Instagram, Robin Ford spelled out, Minneapolis spelled out on Facebook. Check out our webpage, Robin FORMPLS.com. That's our website. We also have a podcast there where we talk to some amazing revolutionary leaders in our community and across the country who is fighting for better. So check that out. But yeah,
Nice.
we're out. We're out here, and yeah, feel free to hop in the DMs if you would love to connect and chop it up about organizing you're doing in your city and how we can amplify it here in Minneapolis.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us. Be well. Take care. We'll see you again, hopefully. And Erin, any plugs? What you got going on? Tell the people how they can find you and follow you.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Erin Dewey Lennox, both of those. And then I have my show in Frogtown here in Los Angeles. Come by and see fun comics like Francesca performing.
Yeah. Every other Saturday, correct?
Every other Saturday. That's right. It spoke.
Hell yeah. All right, Erin. We'll see you in the bonus. We're going to talk about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. We're going to keep it brief. Oh my God. Lot to get to. All right. See you soon. And thank you guys all for being here. I just want to read some comments of things you guys think are good. French fries are good, says Jerry on YouTube. Todd Roy says the Bitchuation room is good. Oh, thanks, Todd. Apollo Racer on Twitch says the smell of freshly cut grass. And Joe4771 says weed is good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You're right. You're absolutely right. It is. Any other good things? All right. Robin equals awesome, says Camperman 5000. Very informative. Agreed. And thank you guys so much for being here, for sticking around. Again, bitchuationroom.com bitchuation.room.com is where you get your merch if you want to become part of the Frantifa in a visual way, I guess. You can always get your merch. It's all union made. Got 2 types of shirts. Very cute. Show it off. Take a picture of yourself in it. I really love to see it. A few comments. Jeff Giro, thank you for the super chat. Just thank you. Tom Sear says a true pro-life position would be to push for universal health care, education, fair taxes, climate disaster mitigation, and to oppose pollution and war. You should run for office, Tom. On the right wing, focusing on the leak, Darren Skjolsvold says, what just happened is they got caught doing something they wanted to do quietly to do. It's like your dog getting caught humping the pillow to completion. It isn't really their proudest moment. That's exactly what SCOTUS is doing. This is their pillow humping. And then they finished. And it was like, oh, man, what do I do now? I'm not horny no more. Thank you, guest, for your super chat. I fully support a woman's right to choose. Although you wrote chose, which I like even better. Hef, thank you for the super chat. Happy Mother's Day, y'all. Shove it, GOP. Hell yeah. Sans Mod Badge 420 just has a few fire emojis with third precinct written. I have no idea what that's about. Writes that shit was based and it's rare to see someone championing it. Let's fucking go, Robin. Yeah, I mean, fuck around and find out is really what that was. And I think the police found out. Luis Benavides, thank you for the super chat. This talk reminds me of Conan's Warlords. What is best in life? Question, but in the most evolved way. I don't know that. Greetings from this Brazilian expat in Portugal. Greetings. What's up? And now let us do the ceremonial thank you to all the people who have become patrons, who've donated to this show. Of course, $10 or more gets you the shout out on patreon.com. This is the fart song. Yeah, get it. We've got a lot of names. Thank you to Richard E. Jackson, to Rochelle Basson, to WM, to Sarah Newman, Amy Martin, Anthony Farnan, Todd Gentry, Mark Halbach, Leonard Maldonado, Anthony Morales, Charles Gallagher, John B., and of course, Mr. Martin Dingler. That was a dingler of a fart. Martin Dingler for the 300th patron, and thank you guys all for just throwing down. Thank you to the Twitch subs: Chris Huggy, Calm Like a Bomb, Braided Dragon, David Schmidt 311, that guy named Tiny, Willie Gus, JFMEHL 81, Groove Dragon, Drew in Georgia, Bib Snake, Homospicious, Marcus Aurelius 7, Burning Bush Dragon, Roses in August, Omega Shenron Dragon, what up? Matt Gates on a White Ford Bronco, what up? Melanie 44, Daisy Dragon, Susie Ruck, Depressed Progressive, Ricky C 183, and anyone who's gifted a sub, Iron Man 42, Braided Dragon. You guys are awesome. Remember, if you miss me in the middle of the week, I do a show on TYT's Twitch channel called The Twitchuation Room. It's actually a lot of fun, and it's a little more insane and unscripted, and I have a good time doing it. So you guys should hop on board on that. And thank you to everyone who works on the show, to Paige Oamek, to Maximillien Inhoff, to Alexandra Ornes on the other side of them chats. We stream every Sunday, 5/8 Eastern on YouTube and Twitch. Follow the show on Twitter at Bitchuation Pod, TikTok at Franny Fio, YouTube at Instagram at Franny Fio. And remember, fight the power, fuck the patriarchy, fuck it raw, and then abort its baby. And don't just bitch about it. Be about it. See you next time.